Greetings, everyone. Rev D here, Reverend Deborah Johnson. I thought I'd wait to the end of the Juneteenth weekend before I drop this because I didn't want to come across as some sort of Debbie Downer raining on the Juneteenth parade. Nah. However, I do believe that it is really, really important that we know our history, that we protect it from being erased, and that we don't collude with it being rewritten. A lot of the stories that we're telling ourselves about Juneteenth and that we're passing on to our children are just historically inaccurate. So here's what happened with Juneteenth and what did not happen with Juneteenth. So Juneteenth is June 19th, 1865. Prior to that, in the middle of the Civil War, when the Union was really thinking it was going to lose, the president, Abraham Lincoln, put forth this proclamation called the Emancipation Proclamation. And it says, it's really short, as an act of war, what he was doing is that he was freeing the slaves, but only the slaves that were in the territories where the white people were rebelling against the Union. All other slaves would still, in fact, be slaves. That proclamation went out. Texas was very, very aware of it. What happened on June 19th isn't suddenly that Texas became aware of the fact that the slaves had been freed. What happened was that Galveston, Texas, was the last place that the Union Army showed up. They were the last place that the Union Army showed up in order to provide some protection for this transition of the ending of slavery. Take a breath. The slaves were not told that they were free. These pictures that we have of the Union General Granger making this proclamation to all of the black people who were listening, and this sense of celebration and shouting like what happened at the end of World War II. No, the Union did not talk to any slaves. What the Union did is they created this order. It was called Order Number 3, that explained the situation, and they posted this all over the place. So you had to be literate to even be able to read the order. Okay? It was going to be up to the former slave owners to convey the information to the former slaves. I'm going to read you what that order says. It's not that long, but let me break it down to you first. So what this order does is it reminds people that the slaves are free. And then it goes on to explain that there are these rights now that are existing, and that it redefines what the relationship is now between the former slave owners and the former slaves. Furthermore, it explains how the Union is not going to be some kind of sanctuary for the former enslaved people to come to. It tells them what it is that they are expected to do and the things that they're not going to be supported in. It breaks it down like that. So here's Order Number 3 that's coming out of the headquarters of Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness there or elsewhere. Free-ish. So this Juneteenth that we celebrate is having the slave owners to inform these folks that you're supposed to be quiet and stay here and keep working. So much for the freedom, where the relationship is already predefined in this hierarchical fashion. Okay, so this is what Juneteenth is. But even that didn't free all the slaves. It wasn't until the end of the year in 1865 with the 13th Amendment that slavery and involuntary servitude shall not be permitted except for the conviction of a crime. Free-ish. Again. But this still didn't free all of the slaves. We still had the question of the slaves that were enslaved by the Native American tribes. The Cherokee were the first to free the slaves. They did so right after the Emancipation Proclamation in February of 1863. But it wasn't until a year after the 13th Amendment that the other 4 tribes that were slave owning freed their slaves. But here's the catch. When these people were freed, they were not made part of the native tribe. And those independent native nations were not formally a part of the United States. So these newly freed slaves were people essentially without a country. And it took years to figure that out. It's really quite personal, because my family was caught up in that. My family is from Texas. My father was raised next door to his grandmother, Bertha Johnson, who essentially really raised him. And as I was growing up, my great-grandmother, Bertha, lived with her 2 sisters, Ida and Rosa. They used to tell us stories of their childhood. They had explained how their father was a black freedman and that their mother was Cherokee. I had no doubt about that. I could just look at them. My Aunt Rosa in particular had this long, straight, ropey hair, like nothing I'd ever seen before, almost like a horse's tail. And she would twist it in a braid, and it went all the way down her back, almost to her knees. Snow white. They would tell how their father was this black freedman. And I have no doubt that he had been a Cherokee slave. What he would do is whenever his wife was about to give birth, he would send their mother across the Rio Grande to give birth there. All of them were born on Mexican soil to make certain that they were free. And I remember as a kid just being incredulous about this, that anybody could question whether my great-grandmother, whether my aunties, with her brothers, like whether they were human beings. Okay? But such was the case, and that went on long after Juneteenth. So here's the thing. When we think we already have something, we stop looking for it. Okay. In a way, this is a good thing because we know that we have freedom. That's our birthright. And nobody can give that to us. It's already ours. You could try to take it away, but it's already ours. But the equality that comes with that freedom, we're still free-ish. We haven't really gotten there yet. And we can't stop looking for it. So while you teach the children about Juneteenth, please remind them the job isn't finished. It ain't over yet. They have to do their part to make sure that we have the equality that accompanies this freedom. And we can stop being free-ish.